alongside Nick Yor to bring you Redskins relaunch. In for Winston Hilton, Colvin Underwood, and Nick. A lot to cover today. A lot of news. We're going to get to March Madness a little bit later in the program. Talk about the Ernie Grunfeld fire, and we're going to do a quarterback evaluation of the Washington Redskins roster. We're going to look at some of the mock drafts, but first. Trent Williams, an injury scare for him. He had a growth from his scalp removed. There was fear that the growth was a malignant tumor, but it was found to not be malignant, and it was removed without issues. And fortunate for the Redskins, given that Trent Williams has been a pillar for this team since being drafted with the 4th overall pick in 2010. Now there is some, concern with his availability. He's been nicked up in and out of the lineup with various injuries. Should be ready for training camp, but a relief to have Trent Williams. That situation could have been a lot worse, but it looks like Trent Williams will be good to go for the start of the season.
Yeah, just great for him and his family, the rest of Redskins organization. Never want to hear anything like that happening to an athletic player, especially something he can't control, something like that didn't even happen on the field. So just prayers up to him and his family, and hopefully everything is okay, because everything you said is spot on. I mean, I would say probably he has been the best draft pick in the Dan Snyder era. I mean, he's just been, like you said, a pillar at them. And for that 4th overall pick, you can just plan him in at that left tackle spot. And yeah, had some recent injuries the past couple of years, but when you just get bigger, you get older, that's going to happen. You see that with a lot of the big-time left tackles. Cowboys left tackle Tyron Smith, another big-time player. He's missed more and more games as his career has gone on. You've seen that in Philadelphia with your guy Julius Peters. Jason Peters, I'm sorry, is a big-time left tackle, big guy. There's big guys, they move well, but injuries can happen as they get older, so you've seen a little bit more uptake in injuries for these types of players. But when a guy like Trent Williams, works so hard, is always the hardest worker, cares the most really about anybody in that Redskins organization, he's going to be back, do everything he can to be at his best on the field. So just really a great situation for them to get cleared up.
You talk about a guy who's played through pain, gone through a lot to make sure that he's out there more Sundays than not. Only something like a tumor could keep him out. Hopefully we see him out there to start the season, although you have to expect they will lower his workload and off-season activities. Some other news for the Redskins: they bring in Kenny Britt for a workout on Monday. Now, they don't end up signing him, but certainly speaks to the receiving depth on this Redskins team. The fact that they give Kenny Britt a look, only 30 years old, but has been in the league since 2009 and really hasn't done much since that 2016 season where he had 1,000 yards with the Rams. Interesting decision there to check out what's going on with Kenny Britt.
Yeah, I mean, they do need receiver help. I mean, everybody knows that. I mean, you're just looking at some of these receivers on the roster. I mean, you really have Josh Dodson, who, he's not reliable. And then you have Paul Richardson, who I think he can be a deep threat. Yeah. He's definitely not a reliable receiver. And then you have Trey Quinn, who can be a decent slot player for them in the slot, but he's not an outside receiver. Out of SMU last year, Mr. Irrelevant. But other than that, I mean, it's obvious they need receiver help, and that's why they're bringing in a guy like Kenny Britt, because they're trying to get it any way they can. If they can get it cheap, if they can get it, because they had options in free agency to go get these guys. I mean, even a guy like Cole Beasley was available. He went to Buffalo. I mean, there are receivers that you didn't have to pay top dollar for, like an Antonio Brown or an Odell Beckham Jr. that was on the trade market if you wanted to upgrade that way. I think they're just trying to do it in any way they can, maybe find maybe a steal, and I don't think Kenny Britt is quite the way to go, because when you look at these bigger, taller receivers, the older they get, just the less fast they get and the less athletic they get, and that really deters his ability. He really hasn't been successful, like you said, since that season. He's had a couple other stops with St. Louis, with New England. I mean, if it doesn't work out in New England, is it really going to work out anywhere? When you think about receivers, if you can't catch it from Tom Brady, you're going to catch it from Colt McCoy and Case Keenum. I mean, so I just think it's really just desperate, and they're really going to have to try to address this in the draft if they want to go cheap, because there just aren't a lot of good, cheap, viable options. I mean, really Kenny Britt, but who else is really out there for free agent wide receivers still left?
You're right in terms of the free agent market with wide receivers drying up a little bit. So you have to imagine the Redskins will take a shot or two at some guys in the draft, a pretty good wide receiver class in the draft, and also in the draft, an interesting quarterback group. We're assuming Kyler Murray's going number 1, Haskins not far after. Drew Lock, a guy who has visited with the Giants and the Washington Redskins. What do you think about that? What do you see in the tea leaves for the Redskins there potentially linking up with Drew Lock?
If the Redskins think that's their guy and that's for sure is who they love out of anybody. He's got the big arm. You like his attitude. You like his work ethic. You like his family, like where he comes from, all that stuff. Then by all means, pull the trigger and go after and get him. I just don't see that in Drew Lock personally. I mean, I think maybe it's his bias because he went to Missouri, but I just think he has Blaine Gabbert written all over him. Just big time arm. Also went to Missouri, going to get picked around that 10 to 15 range, probably too high because they aren't. Gabbert was taken a little too high. Remember in that draft, that was a quarterback weak draft. Locke will probably go a little bit too high than he should go, and it's like a team like the Redskins to do that. But I think when you think about all the needs of the Redskins, I think they need to go maybe a different route. You look back to what the Bengals did when they got their receiver-quarterback combo. They got that in the same year. They went after A.J. Green really high in the draft, got him at 4, and then waited for the quarterback they liked in the 3rd round, who was probably just as good as anybody else in that draft, Andy Dalton. And Redskins could go a similar way. Maybe get that big-time receiver at 15, an A.J. Brown or Metcalf, if he's still at the board, maybe trade up a few spots to get him. You have that legit receiver for that young quarterback to come in and build and maybe get your guy that you're looking for 2nd, 3rd round. Maybe it is one of these other guys you maybe like a little bit better.
Interesting you mentioned Blaine Gabbert, the Missouri connection there. Remember back in 2011, the Redskins were in position to take Gabbert at 10. They trade down with the Jaguars. Jaguars trade up to get Gabbert, and Redskins end up with a pretty good player in Ryan Kerrigan. So we'll see if they believe that Locke is their guy. Another young quarterback who's in the news is Josh Rosen, the 10th overall pick last year in 2018. A guy, 4th quarterback taken in the 1st round, a really stacked quarterback class last year. With rumors that the Cardinals are going to go with Kyler Murray, Chris Mortensen saying that one team that's somewhat been forgotten in the Josh Rosen talk is the Washington Redskins, who are doing their due diligence on rookie quarterbacks and potentially making a move for a guy like Rosen, despite the fact that they acquired Case Keenum. If the Redskins, let's take a look at some of the available quarterbacks that are young prospects, because we understand that they've got Case Keenum in the fold, Colt McCoy they retained from last year, and Alex Smith, uncertainty with the injury. But as we take a look at the board, here's some potential young quarterback targets. We're assuming Kyler Murray is going to be taken at number 1, whether it's the Cardinals, whether it's the Raiders trading up. Unsure what's going to happen with Dwayne Haskins, because the Giants are indicating they're not as interested as you might expect. Drew Lock
could be a little fake news as well.
It could be some fake news. Indeed, they do have 2 picks, 6 and 17, to where they can address the quarterback spot. Drew Lock getting some notice. You mentioned a guy like Blaine Gabbert. I see him as a potentially like a Jay Cutler type with the arm talent. But what does that do for you? Will Greer, a guy you know well as a West Virginia fan, a guy who's getting some momentum. Daniel Jones from Duke has worked with David Cutcliffe, a guy who's worked with both of the Manning brothers. More of a mobile guy, not really the precision passer. Ryan Finley, 24-year-old quarterback from NC State. And Josh Rosen, of that list, who stands out to you as a guy that the Redskins should target?
So for me, I obviously like the top 2 guys, Murray and Haskins, especially Haskins being a local guy, went to Bullis. I think if the Redskins could get him, that would be a home run, but I don't think he's going to be available if the Giants don't take him at 6. I still think the Giants will take Haskins at 6. I think that's a little bit of a fake, trying to just give some other news to other teams like you see in the draft a lot. So I think they will end up taking him at 6. But even if he doesn't, I feel like a lot of teams will come up after that. Maybe Oakland, John Gruden, someone like that, come in with all their assets and try to get Haskins if he starts to fall. So I really think from the Redskins, realistically, I don't think they can get either of those 2 guys unless they do give up a haul to move up. I think the best option for me, and I firmly believe this is the best option for the Redskins out of all the other young quarterbacks besides Murray and Haskins, is Josh Rosen. They need to go out and get this guy. I mean, if you could get Josh Rosen at 15 last year's draft, that would have been considered a steal. So, I mean, just because it's a weaker class, you're not going to do that. Like, no, this was a guy you targeted last year. You could have gotten him, and now you have your chance again to get him this year, and it's $1.2 million cap if traded. Not that big of a deal. If you're going to get another free agent or bridge quarterback, it's going to cost you more money than that. I just really think salary-wise, age-wise, and ability-wise, what you've seen coming out of the draft last year and in college, I mean, obviously didn't show a lot in the NFL this past year, but I really think Rosen is the guy that Washington should go after and would be the best option out of Locke, Greer, Jones, and Finley. And I'm a big Greer fan, so for me to say that, it shows really how much I think Rosen would really flourish in this type of environment. I just think it's the best move for the Redskins, just asset-wise and money-wise.
and you look at this class and the perception of Josh Rosen last season, I think he would be in the mix for the number 2 quarterback selected this year in this class. His stock has fallen after a tough season, statistically the worst quarterback in terms of QBR, but he was in a really dysfunctional situation with the worst offensive line in the league and not many weapons outside of Larry Fitzgerald and David Johnson. When we return, we're going to talk about who the experts have mocked to the Redskins. We're going to take a look at some of the most recent mock drafts in the Twitter sphere and the on the internet, and we're going to talk about who of the draft experts we think are getting it right, who are picking picks that are in the right direction for the Redskins when we return here on Redskins Relaunch.
This content is brought to you by Dental Associates. For more than 39 years, Dr. Stephen Price has been practicing dentistry in Northern Virginia. A member of the American Dental Association, the Northern Virginia Dental Society, and the Virginia Dental Society, Price is considered an expert in Invisalign and continues to be an award-winning innovator in the industry. DMVSTREAM.COM, the Mid-Atlantic's leader in sports video, broadcasting, and live streaming. Contact us today to learn more about our services and streaming packages. Visit us on the web at DMVSTREAM.COM. That's DMVSTREAM.COM.